Hello, everybody, and welcome to the People's Poll. It's Monday. It's international break. The last thing you want to do is hear about FPL based on the weekend that's just happened. My name's Suj.
What they're going to later.
They're going to hear about FPL about 70 times this week from us. We have so much content planned for this week, and I think everybody wants nothing more than a detox. So,
yep.
Should we just stop recording everything, or are we going to plow on?
My name's James, and we're here to bring the detox.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if it's going to be a detox, man, because we're just talking about
we are
shit.
going to have a laugh for the next 20 minutes or so.
I wildcarded last week, and that was probably one of the most random weeks to wildcard into ever.
Yeah, it was the fucking shit fuck of a week, wasn't it?
There was no team that I could have wildcarded that would have done well last weekend. No team.
Not really, unless you had like Mane.
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much. There was like so many A/B calls, and even the Bs would have fucked up. So it's one of those where you just don't even worry about it and you move on. And we've got a nice 2-week break now. We've got the People's Poll. We put a poll out. What were the 4 options and what won, James?
The winner was a worst of FPL team. I'm going to take you through my selections for the worst FPL selections so far this season. Some of them are funny, some of them are controversial, but I've come up with a squad that would have cost you under 100 million to start the season. It would cost you a lot less than 100 million now. It was very closely beat by a suggestion to do a chat on rage transfers, which we will do a little bit on tonight's main podcast. Also want to talk about Wolves. I'm obviously going to cover them off as well in terms of obviously they had an amazing result at the Etihad yesterday. And we kind of mentioned pre-game that there was a fixture swing and did we want to look at it? And the general consensus is no, but then they do something like that and you think, oh, fuck, I do need to look at it. And already there is a movement towards Raul Jimenez already.
I mean, is he down to 7.1 now? 7.1 from 7.5.
It's appealing very much so. And I also, through my weekend of soul searching about Spurs, came up with this idea, which I'm going to cover a little bit briefly on Tottenham tomorrow, about players peaking in age earlier than the perceived kind of 27, 28. And is it actually now a lot earlier?
Well, and so the winner was this 15 that we're going to run down of players that have underperformed this season or would have been crap FPL picks for whatever reason. Now,
some of these 15 players are not crap, but I've tried to use all the money here as well, as close as possible.
So obviously we're avoiding players that have been injured, for example, because Alisson would have been a crap pick because he's only played all of 20 minutes or whatever. But it's not really a fair...
You can't call it a crap pick. It's not just really
a fair selection to start the season off. For sure. So in goal, 2 goalkeepers. Who do you think is the worst 2 goalkeeping picks of the season so far?
Well, what I've tried to do with the squad for this is kind of budget it effectively. So I've not picked 2 5.5 million goalkeepers, for example. I've picked one kind of premium goalkeeper and one cheaper one. The goalkeeper I've gone for is Kepa.
As a premium?
Yeah, which might sound a little bit controversial. 5.5 million and still 5.5 million, and he's actually got more owners now than when the season started. However, take this as a stat. Chelsea have conceded 14 goals this season. Kepa has made 14 saves. I believe it's the lowest number of saves from a goalkeeper of anyone that's played all the games so far. I think he's made 2 more than Tim Krul, who obviously missed the Villa game at the weekend for Norwich. That's a little bit concerning, isn't it? He's conceding one in every 2 shots on target.
As a premium, I was going to suggest Hugo Lloris because he's cost you 2 goals from 2 fuck-ups, for want of a better phrase. But then looking at his stats in comparison, 8 goals conceded, 30 saves made. So one in 4 is going in, but he's saving 3 out of every 4, whereas Kepa's not. So when you frame it like that, I think it's hard to argue that a goalkeeper who's letting in 50% of the shots, it's not 50% of the shots, but You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is a shit stat.
Well, Loris has obviously
Is a
made a
shit stat.
number of saves this season in comparison and had a few save bonuses. I think he got 3 or 4 at Man City, probably the same at Arsenal, whereas Kepa's had the clean sheet against Brighton and not a lot else. He's hit save bonus twice, but they were both in games where Chelsea conceded 2 or more. Mm-hmm. So it's just like leveling out at shit, basically.
He's the 4th highest priced keeper, joint with Pickford and Lloris at the moment at 5.5. Everybody around him has scored shitloads more points than him. So Edison 29, De Gea 32, Pickford 24, Lloris 24, Fabianski 24, Patricio 38, Leno 27, Gaeta 30. There isn't a single keeper in that top 12 less than 20 points other than
Kepa.
Arrizabalaga Kepa. How do you
Yeah.
like my Spanish?
Kepa
Arrizabalaga
Kepa.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, you can't argue with that. I think you have made the case for Kepa very
The
clearly.
other reason it's kind of felt like a bad pick is, and we talked about Kepa a lot in pre-season, we kind of compared him with Loris a few times in terms of if you were to pick one, and obviously Pickford's in that value, as is De Gea, who has gone up in value. I don't quite know how or why that's happened.
Save points because he's having to save
Well,
so many.
Yeah, quite a bit maybe. But we looked at Kepa because if you compared, say, with the Spurs defence, who kind of all dropped to sort of 5.5-ish, a lot of the main Chelsea guys were 6.
Yeah.
And there was a consensus that if you were going to dive on them defensively, you might as well do it on Kepa. And then I think that situation changed, A, when David Luiz got sold to Arsenal just before the deadline, and then B, with the emergence of some of these other talents, obviously like Tomori. Zuma's been in and out the side, but is cheaper. Emerson at the same price. Reece James soon is going to get a look in over Azpilicueta. So, yeah, Kepa as goalkeeper.
Who did you pick as the budget? Tell me it was Woodman at Newcastle, or does he not count?
No,
He's
I
disappeared?
didn't. What I've done with this is I've intentionally avoided the lowest possible prices. So you people like Woodman, Winston Reid at West Ham. I've avoided all these guys because I just think, man, it's not funny. Yeah, but that's the worst budget. So the obvious 4.5 to go for was Tim Krul, but I've actually gone for Asmir Begovic because I just think it's funny. Asmir Begovic at the start of this season was owned by 176,000 people,
Wow.
which in the grand scheme of things is not that large. But when we also consider comparing it with the other Bournemouth goalkeepers' ownership on game week 1,
Yeah.
was Boric at 25,000, Travers at 16,000, and the guy who actually got the shirt, Ramsdale, had 3,000 owners
Wow.
when the game started. If you remember, there was massive talk in the community because Bournemouth had a decent opening too. I don't know why people were looking at it, but it was like, who's going to start in goal for Bournemouth? And I think they gave Ramsdale a price on like the Wednesday.
Yeah.
When it became apparent he was either going to be first choice or second
In the
choice.
squad at least, yeah.
3,000 owners, yeah. Begovic still has more owners than Ramsdale.
Wow. He's on 86,000. So here's another fun fact for you. This is all a bit little statistical. I was looking at some players on the weekend. Begovic in game week 1 has had 4 times as many owners than Mason Mount. 4 times as many. So Mason Mount started the season with 46 or 47,000 owners. He's now on 2-point-something million. That's a rise. This is a fall from grace.
You could make a case, and that's a different podcast, that Mason Mount has been the best FPL selection so far this season for those who got on at 6 because of the increase in value. And
yeah.
it's only going to, whereas like Pookie dived 0.1 overnight last night, Mason's Mount's just continuing to go. And one of the reasons
And why
Mason
not?
Mount is continuing to go is because there's no one else in that midfield value.
No.
Now he's getting to the point where he's becoming comparable with the forward assets in a similar price.
Of course.
And that's when it will start to calm down.
For sure. Defenders. Bad choice defenders.
So,
can I put one out there?
Go on. I'll
Luke-
tell you if he's in my 5 or not.
Luca Dean
He's not.
is not.
He's not in it.
6 million and Everton playing garbage. I think Luca Dean is a waste of a spot. He's still got 27 points this season, so it's not like that he hasn't. But then 11 of them came in one game week. Like first 2 weeks, he scored 17 points.
Well, yeah,
Then,
so therefore,
all.
17 points from the first 2 game weeks. Very difficult to call him a bad game week 1 choice. And that's essentially... We're not talking about players as a bad choice right now. We're looking at what were bad choices on game week 1, essentially. I decided with this that I had to put a Liverpool premium in because everybody went for one. So I've put Robertson in this, and I'm loath to do it because Andy Robertson has now been in my FPL team for 46 game weeks, and he's going nowhere until he gets injured. But from the value perspective, same points returned as VVD, 7 less than TAA, and only 3 more than Matip, and Matip's played 2 games less. And from that perspective of that main back 4 from Liverpool, Robertson so far has proved to be the most costliest from a value perspective. There's been a lot of regret for people who made the early Robertson to TAA choice. The fact of the matter is, it's less than 1 point a game week difference. Mm-hmm. But then 38 points over a season
does make a big difference.
Well, of course.
I think Robertson's going to get back to 7 million, though, this season.
So do I.
I don't think it'll be long. He's down to 19.6% ownership. That's 25% less than VVD. That's 11% less than Trent. I think he's going to come back into play.
What will harm Robertson from a value perspective in terms of likely re-increase to 7 million is Alexander-Arnold, because it's clearly the better choice.
Yeah, but he's now 7.2.
TAA got a bonus on Saturday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
3-point return with no clean sheet and no attacking return.
I think yes, but I think also a lot of people who are not on TAA will now start getting outpriced a little bit. They won't want to put 7.3, 7.4 million in a defender. It's like the old days of Leighton Baines at finishing the season at 8.2 or whatever he did. It's bonkers.
Yeah, it was silly high. It feels really harsh to put Robertson in this team because he's the 6th highest scoring defender so far. Or
7th, I think.
Joint 6th or 7th, I think.
So, joint 6th.
But I felt like this team warranted having a Liverpool defender in it, particularly because of my big at the back strategy. And therefore, Andrew Robertson has made this cut. He's not the only premium in this team. It's also going to annoy some others.
Give us a budget pick.
Well, the next highest value one I've put in there is more of a slap for myself. Is Jan Vertonghen, who didn't have...
Any Spurs defender, I think, is acceptable into this team. I would just say any Spurs defender. I'd have probably picked one of the fullbacks more than I would have picked.
It was probably more regretful for myself because the general advice I was giving everybody pre-season was, look, seriously, don't buy a Spurs defender. But if you must and you want that constant tick over of a 6 points, 2 out of every 5 game weeks, do go for Jan Vertonghen. And suddenly he's not in the team and nobody knows why, and he didn't shag Christian Eriksen's misses.
And you mentioned that it's a slap in the face. He's the guy that's got a slap in the face.
He got another black eye at the weekend.
Yeah, I think the black eye was already there and the ball just whacked him one.
Yeah. He had that within a couple of minutes of each other.
Yeah,
Jan Vertonghen started at 5.5 million, 5.3 million. You still wouldn't look at him now because you wouldn't look at a defender Spurs assets, although there is one to look at maybe, which we'll talk about on the pod tonight. I also wanted to throw in this team just for jokes. Our old dear friend, Mr. Holibas, who is already 1 game from a suspension. He has, from 7 games so far this season, a total of 6 FPL points, which is also ironically the same number of points that he picked up in the last game week. So he was actually averaging before this weekend 0 points per game, which takes some fucking achievement.
Yeah, to be fair, that is a definite contender. I mean, Watford have got a goal difference now -16, so anyone from their backline is going to have a shit.
Holibas comes out of worst because
but he's the worst of the lot.
One of their better results, the 1-1 draw at Newcastle, he was left out for.
Yeah.
He's also on the 4 yellows. And also would have been the highest owned. So he's dropped from over 250,000 owners to under 100,000 now, and has dropped in price also alarmingly from 5.0 to 4.7. You could take the 0.7 off of that and you still wouldn't go back for him.
No.
A nostalgic pick for some who had rewards with him last year, but yeah, those are some shocking numbers.
No, for sure.
Talking of shocking numbers, I also put Kurt Zuma into this team. A little bit harsh because he's kind of been in and out the team, but he's played a total of 7 games and has 4 FPL points.
Wow.
You couldn't really make this shit up overall, could you?
I mean, this is going to be. I think this season is just going to be one of those. You just got to roll with the punches and take it as it is. I've decided now after this weekend, I'm going to have fun for the rest of the season and not take it too seriously. Because the more you do and the more you beat yourself up, what are you going to do? Give yourself grey hair?
Yeah.
Go bald? It's just not worth it.
Zuma became a bad pick for a number of reasons. He obviously had the booking in the 4-0 defeat at United. He had the own goal against Sheffield United. Then he was out the team. He's lost 0.3 in value. And obviously Tomori's emergence as well.
He's now golden boy.
Means that even though he's in the team, that will probably just keep going. Who would have thought you'd get to the point where Chelsea's starting centre-halves would be 4.7 and 4.6 in FPL?
Wow.
There's obviously a risk over both of them because Christensen can come in for either. And obviously Rudiger is still the first choice centre-half there. But it looks like Tomori will be his partner at the moment. I like Tomori. He's a good player. He made one big boo-boo yesterday, which ended up with Jorginho clearing off the line from Danny Ings. But he's actually got traits, and whisper it quietly. There's something in him that reminds me of Ledley.
Oh. Okay.
That's praise.
There you go. Who else have you got at the back?
So
we've got Zuma. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Olibas, couldn't agree more. Robbo is controversial, but if you're looking at the value and looking at it from that point of view, he hasn't set the world alight, so I understand that as well. And Vertonghen and his black eye. Give us the last defender.
And his black eyes.
Yeah.
I wanted to put a 4.5 in, and a difficult call, but I've put one in who I think was, I wouldn't say rage, but a lot of people who were in the know were looking at and wondering if he might possibly be this year's Matt Doherty. And it's Max Aarons at Norwich. Mm-hmm. It would have been wrong of us really to pick this team and not have anything defensive Norwich in it. And I think if we were picking one at the start of this season, Max Aarons would have been the guy that we went to. 4.5. He impressed in some moments on the opening day at Liverpool. He has so far 3 FPL points from 5 games. In those 5 games, Norwich have conceded 17 of their total of 21 goals overall. He has dropped to 4.4 million. This time last week, I was thinking to myself, do you know what? Him back in that team, they've got a decent little run, and then they can't get slapped 5-1 at the weekend. Yeah, you will not be buying any Norwich players at any point this season. Aarons could go down to 4.2 or so, and I still don't think you'd look, because for every attacking return, he'll concede 7 or 8 goals. Yeah,
that's the difficulty, isn't it? The other one that came up from the Championship as a fullback that was highly tipped was Ender Stevens. I did want to have a glance at his numbers because he came in at 5 million, not 4.5.
His price has held, though.
It has held. He hasn't gone down in value, but I suppose he's still less than 1% owned, 0.7%. But the difference being that obviously Sheffield United have figured out how to keep clean sheets, particularly away from home, which is where they're doing it, with their defensive style. And he has picked up 1 attacking return in terms of an assist now. Which is more than Aarons has. Yeah, with Aarons having no attacking returns, the likelihood of them conceding more than 4 goals at any given time and having dropped in value, I think from the promoted defenders, couldn't argue with you there.
I've put a premium midfielder in here because I felt it needed one. If you're going to pick a worse team, you've got to have a captain option in this team.
Mo Salah.
It's Raheem Sterling.
I was going to go with Sterling as well, and I think he has how many times has he blanked for you as captain this season?
Well, this is part the point that for Sterling's inclusion in here. Essentially, of the premiums, there's only one player who's scored less than him, and it's Harry Kane. Do you know how many points less Kane has than Sterling?
1 or 2.
It's 2.
Yeah.
And therefore, on the value, Sterling comes out at his worst. Plus, there is that. There's the 20-point haul from game week 1 against West Ham when nearly all of us were probably captaining Mo Salah or a Liverpool asset.
Yeah.
I obviously captained Kane like a dickhead. So not too many of us were captaining Raheem Sterling at West Ham. So from the captain returns of what's followed, you might have had the goal against Tottenham, the
He's had
goal
4
against
blanks.
Bournemouth, but it's just been his only double point return. It's very hard to criticise someone who's got 6 goals in 8 games. And by the way, he's 12.1 and will probably go down to 12.0 during this break. And I am not selling him. I'm not saying that he's a bad pick and selling him. It was just a case of I felt this team had to have a captaincy option. And that meant having a player that was 10 million and above. And from a value perspective, so far, Sterling's come out worse.
Way worse.
Than Kane and Salah.
He's had 4 blanks this year. One of them, obviously, is where he was dropped.
And that's not helped either.
So he's had 3 blanks out of 7.
There is
captain.
there is a case
the
for
issue
saying,
is that it's the games where he has blanked, Brighton at home, Norwich away, Wolves at home, where people have been chucking the armband on him.
I mean, a lot of us did captain him in the Watford game and had a lot of success.
Yeah, well, KDB
But
VC
there's not the returns out of him. 90 minutes at home to Brighton, 3 points, 2 points yesterday at home to Wolves.
It's those games, it's the specific fixtures where he's flopped that's been a real disappointment.
Well, I think the majority of people over the weekends, it was very split, even sort of live teams and even through the top 1,000, very split over favouritism between Aguero and Sterling on the captaincy at the weekend. And there's no
Made
fault
fuck
in
all
doing
difference
it.
in the end, did it?
And when you get to game week 9, you might look at City at Palace and go, well, I'll go Sterling again.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Any place, any time with City.
He scored in 4 out of his 7 games, so there you go. Can I chuck another name out for midfield?
I mean, this is brilliant, the rest of this midfield.
Owned by nearly 1 million players in game week 1. Nearly 1 million. Started the season at 6.5. I owned him. I think he lasted about 3 weeks in mine.
He's definitely
now,
in this team.
Less than 227,000 people. Jose Perez hailed as the biggest potential out of position player going.
I feel like giving you the whole rest of this midfield together.
Let's do it. Where's Perez is in there?
Perez is in there as the cheapest. Sigurdsson,
Yep.
Fraser,
Yeah.
Zaha, and a Jose Perez.
Yeah. Zaha's the only one that I'm a little question mark over because of he started the season a little later than the others and he's just getting
Came on a
motoring
sub
now.
game week 1.
Yeah.
Between the 4 of those players,
Psychologically, maybe.
between the 4 of those players, lost 1.5 million in value between them.
Wow.
And if you think about the rage and the ownership of these guys early doors, so you said Perez's ownership. Sigurdsson started with just under 800,000 owners. Fraser with 1.11 million. Zaha 1.08 million. Jose Perez 960,000.
Wow.
So the ownership between all 4 of those guys is about 3.7 million at the start of this season.
But they're all like, yes, that's all like between 7, because you started the season at what, 6 million players?
Let me
give or
tell you
take. So it's
right now,
about
someone
17,
is
18.
listening to this podcast and started with all 4 of them.
Quite possibly.
Maybe with Sterling all 5.
That's I don't think there were that many big in the middle kind of strategies at the start of the season, but you're talking 15 to 18% ownership on these guys. That's high ownership. Imagine the dead teams that are still sitting on half of these guys. But talking about zombies, I don't want to because I saw our zombie team with a number of red flags and yellow flags on that shit. It's not making me happy.
The only one of the 4 to mention now that's still got an ownership of over 300,000 is Zaha.
Yeah.
And his ownership's still at 645,000. I think he's the prime case of it's not just dead teams during the season, it's people picking a team in July and not looking at it again, honestly. Because I think most of us wouldn't have, in the FPL community on Twitter, wouldn't have started with Zaha because of all the rumours about Arsenal, Everton, and he wasn't going to start the opening day, putting in transfer requests 3 days before the season started. But he started every game since game week 2 and came on in game week 1. And his return so far is 1 measly assist at home to Norwich.
Yeah.
When last year he was contributing, was it 21 attacking returns last year?
He did very well last year.
So, and you would have even, there was a few who were looking at the last 2 before this weekend, sort of Norwich at home, Wolves at home, thinking, I want to go in. The 1 assist there is not good enough. Talking of 1 assist, that's Sigurdsson's return so far this season.
Talk to me about strikers. I had a name out, which I'll put out there to start with, in Che Adams. But I don't know if it's a bit personal. I just think he's not good enough.
Che Adams was very close to making this squad.
The one reason that Che Adams maybe doesn't make it is he's only still 0.5% owned. 75,000 owners at the start of the season, 35,000 now. Like, he's in our dead team, right? So the ownership is so low that it hasn't really affected that many teams.
Correct.
But he hasn't done well this season.
Harry Kane could have been in this team, definitely.
Yeah, he could have.
Harry's returns are okay. It's just other players of like Abraham and Pookie and stuff like that. So it looks like a really bad choice. And as I said, from the value point of view, he actually comes out a little bit better than Sterling at the moment.
Yeah.
Plus, I feel like the majority of people went for 3 mid-range forwards at the start of the season. So I've stuck 3 in. I've stuck in Gerard Deulofeu.
Yeah. I was on my list.
Who was quite lowly owned, only sort of just under 350,000 owners on game week 1. But there were quite a few that looked at Watford's first 4, starting with Brighton at home. These all look difficult games now.
Yeah.
Everton away, West Ham, and then Newcastle away, then Arsenal. It looks like Watford had a difficult run in hindsight. But the first 4 looked appealing. You did think, I think he would have, if he'd have started as a midfielder, he would have still been a lot more teams. Deulofeu has 1 assist so far this season, inevitably against Arsenal, and has only completed more than 45 minutes on 4 occasions so far this season.
He's got it's like Sean Dyche's curly finger has been hooking him.
Now, for his partners in the front 3, and bearing in mind from the 8 attacking players, you'd obviously leave 1 out, but Ayoze Perez is playing so infrequently now that he'd obviously have to be first sub in this team. I couldn't make a decision between Jimenez and Jota, so I just fucking put them both in.
I think Jimenez has come good just now.
Yesterday,
so I don't know about that. Jota's struggled with injury, so he's missed the last couple of games, and he's been rotated in midweek in the Everton game because of the Europa League. But in the games where he's played like 90 minutes, 1 goal, no assists. Jota's have been a real disappointment. He started at 6.5, whereas Jimenez started at 7.5. I don't know what's better or worse.
All 3 of these forwards have lost 0.4 in value.
It's like if you bought Jimenez to be more reliable, so you spent a little bit more, or Jota was the better value, so you went to 6.5. So the lack of reliability from Jimenez or
when the prices came out at the end of June or whenever it was, I wanted to put Jimenez and Jota straight in my team, both of them.
Yep.
Honestly. And from that perspective, the caveat to all of this is, particularly with Jimenez, like it's now going to turn back the other way, I think. They've got, pull up Wolves' fixtures, Suj, just while I throw you some stats on these 2.
Wolves, you said.
Jota started with 760,000 owners. He's lost 500,000 of them. Jimenez started with basically 1.3 million owners and has lost more than half. It has about 575,000 owners now.
For Wolves coming up, game week 9, Southampton at home. Then they're away at Newcastle, followed by Arsenal away, which on paper is more difficult, but with counter-attacking style that Wolves like to play, maybe not so. Then they've got Villa at home, Bournemouth away, Sheffield United at home, West Ham at home, Brighton away before they get into a tricky run.
Tottenham at home,
Norwich
away.
All right, let's chuck those 2 in there as well, based on current form. So you do get to Boxing Day before they've got City and Liverpool back-to-back.
And then good fixtures again on the other side. Straight after the other side,
it's Newcastle,
Southampton. And then they play Liverpool again. Yeah. I don't know. The only thing with Jimenez and Jota, obviously Jota's not in at the team at the moment because he's got a bit of a knock. Tony's not overly impressed me so far, although I know Bradley Parker likes him, thinks he's a good player. I think Jimenez is where you'd go. The problem is, what Wolves did yesterday is what Wolves do very well. Different pressure at the weekend. I mean, Southampton's a nice fixture in 2 weeks, and the reason it's a nice fixture is Southampton come and play. I told you, they'll open up. Southampton can't sit behind and frustrate like a Palace do, for example, or I don't know, like a Burnley might or a Sheffield United, and then they're playing counter-attack on Wolves. Southampton just can't play them. So it probably is quite a nice fixture for Jimenez. Big debate. Plus, he'll be pulling on people's heartstrings after yesterday. Because so many of the listeners will have owned him last year.
The question is, where do you fit him in? So you've got, I think Pookie to Jimenez is not a bad shout. I mean, you're not going to downgrade from Abraham or Haller maybe down to Jimenez. Haller maybe, but there are other strikers there. But if you're a Pookie owner or Wood or Barnes and you've got a bit of money, then you might be looking to make that jump up to Jimenez potentially. For me, I've got Callum Wilson at the moment, and then I've got budget in Mason Greenwood. But I could move money around here, there, and everywhere to get 2.7 million to turn Mason Greenwood into Jimenez if I really wanted to.
The other reason to kind of call out Jimenez to be in this team, and people will obviously point at the 2 assists yesterday, which now, by the way, puts him equal on points this season with Ashley Barnes, to give you some perspective. You've already sold him. You didn't have his points yesterday.
Yeah.
So many of his owners now be dead to 8.5%. He's got to get propelled in that differential team, mate.
Yeah, I think we need something.
If we time this all right, Suj, we could end up with Vardy, Jimenez, and Wilson. I reckon if we time it right.
Yep, there we go. Guys, thanks for listening to the People's Poll. We've had a rundown of the 15 worst picks potentially from game week 1. Let's call them Planet Flops. What I'm interested in, James, I'm going to get you to read out all 15 for the listeners. If you've been listening in, I want you to tweet us at PlanetFPL pod, because that's James, or at me, or tweet us both at the same time. How many of the Planet Flops, use the hashtag Planet Flops, did you have in your team in game week 1? We have Kepa and Begovic as your 2 potential goalkeepers. We have Robbo, Vertonghen. Who else is in the defence?
Holibas, Zuma, and Aarons.
Yep. So I am so far only 1. In midfield, Sterling.
Sigurdsson, Fraser, Zaha.
2 more.
Jose Perez, Jimenez, Jota, Delafeo. I had 3 of these.
I had 3 as well. Robertson, Sterling,
and Fraser.
And I had Jose Perez. Is there anybody out there that can top 3 Planet Flops or 4 Planet Flops?
We can't be calling Robertson and Sterling flops, really.
I understand, but this is all
but
fun
I just
and
wanted
games.
to spend the money on this.
Exactly. And if it does make you feel any better, imagine if you'd started with 6 or 7 of these after a horrendous FPL weekend.
But look, so many of them look like value.
Yeah, well,
that's the point.
I just think we get sucked into that value and fixtures.
Probably tells us a little bit as well about moving templates. So you can feel like now that kind of movement of, oh yeah, back to Jimenez and how you going to get the Chelsea guys in and that kind of thing. And by the time we get to the November international break, it'll be something else. Sterling would have scored 3 hat-tricks in 4 or something. And it'll all be changing again. And it constantly does. So you've got to swing with it.
Exactly. Yes, thanks for tuning in to the People's Poll. We're coming at you with 2 podcasts this week. We also have Clash of the Correspondents, but it's not really a clash. We only have 1 correspondent during this international break. Sky FF. How many points is Sky, James?
Oh, I don't want to look.
I had 35.
I was similar. I think I was less. I might have even been 30.
Ouch. We swapped.
I said it'd be low scoring. I didn't think it'd be that low scoring.
No. As well as Tot and Ham. Tottenham losing to Brighton. West Ham losing to Palace. That one's going to be rage emojis everywhere, no doubt. Well, it's not too bad for me, but...
there's going to be less ham and a lot of Tottenham ham on Tuesday.
We are going to have fun this week before a bit more serious back into mindset of FPL next week, as well as a few surprises along the way. Anything else to add, James?
Let's wrap. Main podcast tonight.
Yes, we will. Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.